Samantha was the kind of girl who tried to hide in the back of every room. She was bigger than the other girls in her class, taller and wider, and no matter how many baggy clothes she wore, people still noticed. And when people noticed, they laughed. It wasn't just once in a while, it was constant. In the cafeteria, boys would oink when she walked by. On the playground, girls would whisper and giggle, pointing at her stomach. Even teachers sometimes made careless comments about healthy eating while looking directly at her. At first, Samantha cried in silence. She would go home, shut her bedroom door, and press her face into her pillow until her sobs turned to hiccups. Her mother tried to comfort her. "Sweetheart, you're beautiful just the way you are. Don't let them get to you." But when Samantha looked in the mirror, all she could hear was the cruel laughter that followed her everywhere. Middle school was the worst. Teenagers can be cruel without even realizing it, and Samantha became the target everyone else bonded over. They called her names like whale, hippo, and marshmallow. In gym class, nobody wanted her on their team. When she had to run laps, some kids pretended to collapse in slow motion, mocking her pace. She learned to laugh it off, even joining in on the jokes sometimes, but inside, every word cut deeper than a knife. One memory stuck with her more than all the others. It was the school talent show. Samantha loved singing, and she had practiced for weeks, hoping maybe people would finally see her for her voice instead of her body. But as soon as she stepped on stage, someone shouted, "The stage is going to break!" Laughter exploded through the room. Her throat tightened, her voice cracked, and she forgot half the lyrics. She ran off the stage in tears while the crowd still roared with cruel amusement. That night, Samantha told her mother she never wanted to perform again. She wished she could disappear. "Why do they hate me just because I'm fat?" she whispered. Her mother kissed her forehead and said, "They don't hate you. They hate what they don't understand. But you'll show them one day. You'll shine so bright they won't be able to laugh anymore." At the time, Samantha didn't believe her. High school wasn't much better. Though she grew taller and her features matured, the teasing never completely stopped. People had a way of reminding her she wasn't normal. The girls obsessed with makeup and diets excluded her. The boys looked past her as if she were invisible, except when they wanted to make a joke. Even the so-called nice kids sometimes tried to pity her, offering backhanded compliments like, "You'd be pretty if you lost a little weight." But deep inside, something was changing. Samantha got tired of crying, tired of letting their voices live inside her head. She realized that no matter what she did, whether she hid in oversized clothes or tried to laugh along, people would still find reasons to mock her. If they were going to laugh anyway, then why not live for herself instead of them? So she began to fight back, not with fists or insults, but with small acts of defiance. She started wearing colors instead of hiding in gray hoodies. She joined drama club, even though she was terrified, and forced herself to stand on stage again. This time, when people snickered, she kept going. She discovered makeup tutorials online and experimented until she found looks that made her feel confident. Slowly, she began to build a new version of herself. Not the girl who cried into her pillow, but the girl who could look in the mirror and say, "I deserve to be here." It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, moments when the voices of the bullies still echoed too loudly. But every time Samantha stood her ground, every time she refused to disappear, she felt herself growing stronger. By her senior year, people noticed the difference. She carried herself taller, her laughter more genuine, her eyes brighter. She still wasn't skinny like the girls in magazines, but she radiated something far more powerful: confidence. And confidence, she learned, was magnetic. The same boys who once mocked her started flirting. The same girls who excluded her now asked for makeup tips. But Samantha never forgot. She remembered every laugh, every cruel nickname, every night she cried herself to sleep. And though she had forgiven herself, she hadn't forgiven them. She promised herself one thing. One day she would rise so high, those same people who mocked her would choke on their own words. She didn't know how, but she knew the day would come. And that day would be sweeter than any apology. Samantha's senior year ended with mixed emotions. She had survived, yes, but surviving wasn't enough. She wanted to live, to thrive, to make her presence impossible to ignore. She wanted to silence the voices of every person who had laughed at her. But for that, she needed a path forward. One afternoon, while scrolling through her phone, Samantha stumbled on a video that would change everything. It was of a beauty pageant, women in stunning gowns, walking with elegance, answering questions with confidence. The crown glittered on the winner's head as she smiled, radiant and unstoppable. Samantha watched in awe. For a moment, she imagined herself standing on that stage, not as the girl mocked for her size, but as a queen adored by all. Then she laughed bitterly. How could a girl like her even dream of that? Pageants were for perfect girls, slim, flawless, the kind of girls who never had to fight for respect. Still, something about the idea lingered. Why couldn't she? Who decided what beauty should look like? A spark lit inside her. She began researching pageants, not just the glamorous side but the hard work behind them. She learned that contestants trained relentlessly, practiced public speaking, mastered etiquette, and spent hours preparing their physical appearance. It wasn't just about being thin, it was about discipline, confidence, and presence. For the first time, Samantha saw a goal that wasn't about shrinking herself to please others. It was about growing into the strongest version of herself. She started small, exercise not as punishment but as empowerment. She joined a local gym where at first she felt awkward and out of place among the rows of toned athletes. People stared, some smirked, but she kept her head high. Every drop of sweat became a declaration. I'm not here to disappear. I'm here to rise. She also adjusted her diet, not starving herself to meet someone else's standards, but nourishing her body. More vegetables, less sugar. More water, less soda. Every choice felt like reclaiming a piece of her life. Slowly, she shed not just pounds, but the heaviness of self-hatred. But transformation wasn't only physical. Samantha knew she had to work on her mind and spirit too. She joined a local debate club to sharpen her speaking skills. She started reading self-help books about confidence, body image, and resilience. She watched interviews with past beauty queens, studying how they carried themselves. Most importantly, she faced her greatest fear, the stage. She began volunteering for every performance opportunity she could find, singing at local events, acting in community theater, even giving speeches in class. The fear never disappeared, but each time she stepped into the spotlight, the chains of her past laughter loosened a little more. Her mother noticed the change. "You're glowing," she said one evening. "I don't know what you're planning, but I can see it's something big." Samantha smiled mysteriously. She wasn't ready to tell anyone yet. The dream still felt fragile, like glass that might shatter if exposed too soon. By the time she entered college, Samantha was almost unrecognizable to her old classmates. Her face had slimmed, her posture straightened, her style evolved. She still carried her curves proudly, but now they added to her confidence instead of diminishing it. She was no longer the girl hiding in baggy clothes. She was a young woman who demanded attention when she walked into a room. And that was when opportunity knocked. A flyer on the student center board advertised a regional beauty pageant. Samantha froze as she read it. This was it, the chance she had been working toward, the stage where she could prove to herself and to the world that she was more than the cruel names they had given her. Her heart raced. She tore off the tab with the registration information and clutched it tightly in her hand. That night, she filled out the application, her fingers trembling. When she hit submit, she whispered to herself, "This is my time." But as soon as she told a few people, the whispers began again. Some classmates laughed behind her back. "Her, in a pageant, please," others mocked openly. "She's just trying to get attention." The echoes of her childhood ridicule threatened to crush her. But this time, Samantha was stronger. She had a vision, and no amount of laughter could stop her. She doubled down on her training, pushing herself harder than ever before. She practiced her walk in front of mirrors until her feet ached. She studied questions and rehearsed answers until her voice was steady and clear. She sewed and adjusted her gowns, making sure they fit her curves perfectly. Every insult she remembered became fuel. Every laugh from her past pushed her to work longer, harder, fiercer. The girl they mocked was gone. In her place stood a woman sharpening herself into a weapon, ready to step onto the stage, ready to shine, ready to take her revenge. And when the night of the pageant came, Samantha would not just walk onto that stage. She would claim it. The day of the regional beauty pageant arrived, and Samantha stood in front of the mirror, hands trembling as she adjusted the sash draped across her shoulder. Her gown sparkled under the lights, deep blue against her skin, fitted to her curves in a way that once would have embarrassed her but now made her feel powerful. For a moment, she stared at her reflection and whispered, "You belong here." Walking into the venue was overwhelming. The other contestants were stunning, slim, tall, polished, the kind of women Samantha used to admire from afar. Their hair shone like glass, their makeup flawless. Some of them looked Samantha up and down with polite but dismissive smiles, the kind that said she doesn't stand a chance. The old Samantha would have shrunk, but the new Samantha squared her shoulders and held her head high. When rehearsals began, she noticed the whispers. Two contestants giggled as she practiced her walk. A makeup artist muttered something about challenging body types. Even a coordinator raised his eyebrows as if questioning why she was there at all. The sting of those reactions almost broke her. Memories of middle school laughter and cruel nicknames flooded back. But then she remembered every mile she had run, every speech she had practiced, every tear she had turned into fire. She wasn't here to be accepted by them. She was here to win. The first round was casual wear. Samantha stepped onto the stage in a fitted dress that showed her confidence more than her shape. She smiled, not the nervous grin of the girl she once was, but the radiant expression of a woman who knew her worth. The audience applauded warmly, louder than she expected. She even caught a few surprised faces in the crowd, people who hadn't thought she would pull it off. Then came the talent round. Samantha chose to sing, returning to the passion that had once been stolen from her by laughter. As the music began, her voice shook, but she forced herself to keep going. And something magical happened. Her voice grew stronger with each note, filling the auditorium with raw emotion. She sang not just with her voice, but with her pain, her struggle, and her triumph. By the time she finished, the room was silent for a moment, then erupted in applause. Tears burned her eyes. This was the redemption she had been chasing since that humiliating talent show years ago. The evening gown segment was next. Samantha glided across the stage in her sparkling blue gown, hips swaying with grace, chin lifted proudly. She wasn't just walking, she was commanding. She looked at the audience as if daring them to laugh, but no one did. Instead, they admired. Finally came the dreaded question round. The judge asked, "What is beauty to you?" Samantha took a deep breath. She could have repeated some cliché about inner beauty, but she knew this was her moment. "Beauty," she said, "is not about fitting into someone else's mold. For years, people told me I wasn't beautiful because I was different. They laughed, they mocked, they tried to break me. But real beauty is resilience. It's standing tall when the world tells you to shrink. It's learning to love yourself so deeply that no amount of cruelty can take it away. Beauty is strength, and I am proud to stand here as living proof of that." The crowd erupted. Some people even stood and clapped. The judges whispered among themselves. Samantha could feel the energy shift in the room. She knew she had touched hearts. When the results were announced, Samantha held her breath. Second runner-up was called, then first runner-up, and then the winner. Her name. The crown was placed on her head and the applause thundered. Samantha's heart pounded as tears streamed down her cheeks. She had done it. The girl they mocked, the one who once ran off stage in humiliation, was now standing in the spotlight as a queen. Backstage, some of the contestants congratulated her genuinely, while others forced smiles through clenched teeth. Samantha didn't care. She wasn't competing against them. She had been competing against every cruel memory of her past, and she had won. But the sweetest part came later. After the show, as people gathered to meet the contestants, Samantha spotted a familiar face in the crowd. It was one of her old classmates, the same boy who had oinked at her in the cafeteria years ago. He looked stunned, almost embarrassed, as he realized who she was. "You're Samantha," he stammered. She smiled, the crown gleaming on her head. "Yes," she said simply, before turning away to greet her fans. That night, Samantha lay in bed with the crown beside her. For the first time in her life, the voices of mockery were silent. In their place was applause, cheers, and the echo of her own strength. But deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. Winning one pageant was sweet, but her story wasn't over. She didn't just want a crown. She wanted to rewrite her entire past, to rise so high that every person who had ever mocked her would have no choice but to look up. And she would. After winning her first pageant, Samantha's life changed almost overnight. Local newspapers featured her picture on the front page with headlines like "Breaking Stereotypes," "Plus-size queen wins the crown," and "Confidence redefined." Social media lit up with clips of her performance, especially her powerful answer about what beauty truly means. Strangers began messaging her with words of admiration, telling her that she had inspired them to believe in themselves. For the first time in her life, Samantha wasn't being laughed at, she was being celebrated. But fame came with both roses and thorns. On one hand, she received invitations to model for local fashion brands, especially those promoting body positivity. She was invited to speak at schools about confidence and self-love. A small fan base began to form, young girls messaging her to say, "You showed me that I don't have to be skinny to be beautiful." On the other hand, the critics were still there. Anonymous comments flooded her social media. "She doesn't deserve that crown. This is just pity points. Pageants are for real beauty, not for people like her." Some people even claimed the judges only chose her for publicity. At first, the negativity stung deeply. She thought she had left that cruelty behind. But then she reminded herself she hadn't come this far to crumble over the same voices she had already defeated. If anything, the criticism only proved that she was making people notice, making people question their narrow definitions of beauty. And that was exactly what she wanted. Determined to keep pushing forward, Samantha entered more competitions. Each time, she refined her walk, her voice, her stage presence. Sometimes she didn't win, but every stage taught her something new. She learned resilience wasn't just about surviving insults. It was about standing tall in the face of disappointment. Soon, Samantha's name began to spread beyond her town. A regional organizer approached her with an offer to compete in a statewide pageant. This was no small event. It was televised, with sponsorships, judges from the fashion industry, and the potential to launch a career. The night she received the call, Samantha sat on her bed, crown from her first win still perched on the dresser. She whispered, "This is it. This is my chance." Training became her entire world. She hired a pageant coach to perfect her runway walk and stage presence. She worked with a nutritionist, not to chase thinness, but to maximize her energy and health. She practiced interview questions daily, sometimes recording herself for hours to catch every nervous twitch and every filler word. Her mother supported her every step. "I always told you you'd shine one day," she said proudly. As the statewide competition approached, Samantha felt the pressure. This wasn't just about winning another crown. It was about proving that her first victory wasn't a fluke. It was about standing on a bigger stage, one where millions could see her, and forcing the world to reconsider what beauty looked like. When the big night came, Samantha walked into the grand ballroom filled with lights, cameras, and hundreds of spectators. The competition was fierce. Dozens of polished, dazzling women, many of them with years of pageant experience. Some were friendly, others cold, but Samantha could sense the same dismissive look she had seen before. During rehearsals, a group of contestants whispered behind her back, clearly doubting her. But this time, Samantha didn't shrink. She met their stares with a confident smile. "Let them underestimate me," she thought. "That's my advantage." The rounds began, and Samantha gave everything she had. Her casual wear presentation drew loud cheers. Her talent performance, a heartfelt song dedicated to anyone who had ever felt not enough, brought the audience to their feet. Her gown was breathtaking, a crimson piece that glittered under the lights, hugging her figure like it was made for her alone. But it was the question round that defined the night. "Some people say pageants promote unrealistic beauty standards," the judge asked. "How would you respond?" Samantha's heart pounded. This was her moment. She lifted her chin and said, "Unrealistic standards only exist if we allow them to. For too long, society has told women they must look a certain way to be worthy of admiration. But beauty is not one size fits all. It is courage, it is authenticity, it is the power to inspire others. Tonight, I stand here as proof that the definition of beauty is changing, and it's about time." The crowd roared with applause. The judges nodded approvingly. When the results were announced, Samantha held her breath. She didn't take first place that night, but she was crowned second runner-up, a massive achievement in a competition of that level. To her, it wasn't a loss, it was a victory. Because as the cameras flashed and interviews swarmed her, Samantha realized something important. She was no longer just a contestant. She was becoming a voice, a symbol, a movement. And for the people who had once mocked her, who had laughed at her pain, her rise was becoming impossible to ignore. By the time Samantha placed as second runner-up in the statewide competition, her face was everywhere. News stations replayed her speech about redefining beauty. Fashion blogs called her the queen who is changing the rules. Even international outlets picked up her story, celebrating her as part of a growing body positivity movement. For Samantha, the attention was overwhelming, but it felt like validation for every tear she had shed growing up. She was no longer just the girl they mocked. She was the woman people admired. Yet, with the fame came something she hadn't anticipated, ghosts from her past. It started with a friend request on social media. When she saw the name, Samantha froze. It was Melissa, the girl who had once been the ringleader of her tormentors in high school. Samantha remembered vividly how Melissa would whisper insults during gym class, or how she had started the rumor about Samantha breaking the bleachers just by sitting on them. Now, years later, here she was, requesting to connect. Curious, Samantha clicked on her profile. Melissa's life looked ordinary, an office job, a small family, nothing glamorous. And her message was short. "Hey, I saw you on the news. You look amazing. I'm so proud of you." Proud? Samantha almost laughed. She thought about ignoring it, but instead she typed back, "Funny, I don't remember you being proud of me when you called me a whale every day." Melissa replied almost instantly, "I know and I'm sorry. I was stupid and insecure back then. You didn't deserve it. Honestly, seeing you now makes me realize how wrong I was." The words stung more than Samantha expected. Part of her wanted to slam the door in Melissa's face forever, but another part of her felt something different, power. For the first time, she wasn't the weak one begging for acceptance. She was the one with control. Melissa wasn't the only ghost to reappear. One by one, old classmates reached out. Some sent apologies. Others acted as if nothing had happened, writing things like, "We always knew you'd be successful," which was a blatant lie. Even boys who had once mocked her in the cafeteria sent flirtatious messages, pretending the past didn't exist. Samantha decided to face it head-on. She agreed to attend her upcoming high school reunion. The night of the reunion, she walked into the banquet hall in a gown fit for royalty, her crown, not the literal one, but the one invisible yet undeniable, shining through her confidence. Conversations hushed as she entered. Faces that once sneered now stared in awe. Melissa approached her, nervous smile on her lips. "Samantha, you look incredible," she said. "Thank you," Samantha replied coolly. I really am sorry, Melissa continued. I wish I could take it all back. Samantha studied her for a moment. You can't take it back, but you can learn from it. You made me feel worthless every day for years. And maybe in some twisted way, that pain pushed me to fight harder. But don't pretend it didn't happen. Melissa lowered her eyes, ashamed. You're right. Another former bully, Jason, the boy who used to oink at her in the cafeteria, came up next. He looked different, older, heavier, life worn on his face. Hey, Sam, he said, trying to smile. You're famous now, huh? Guess we were wrong about you. Guess so, Samantha said. She didn't give him more than that. As the night went on, she realized something profound. Revenge wasn't about screaming at them or humiliating them. Revenge was standing there, radiant, successful, untouchable, while they squirmed under the weight of their own guilt. And that was exactly what happened. By the end of the reunion, whispers filled the room. She's the one who won the pageant. She's the one on TV. Can you believe how amazing she looks now? Samantha left the hall with her head high. She didn't need their apologies. She didn't need their approval. The satisfaction was in knowing that every laugh, every cruel word had lost its power. On the ride home, her mother asked, "Do you feel better now?" Samantha smiled faintly. "I don't just feel better, I feel free." But her journey wasn't finished. Fame was growing, opportunities were calling, and bigger stages awaited. The crown she had dreamed of, the one that would make her not just a regional queen, but a national symbol, was still ahead. And Samantha was ready to claim it. After the reunion, Samantha felt lighter, as though she had shed the last chains of her painful past. But she knew her journey wasn't complete. Winning a regional crown, then placing at state level, had given her confidence. Yet her dream had grown bigger than ever. She wanted the national crown, not just for herself, but for every girl who had ever been mocked, shamed, or told she wasn't beautiful enough. The national pageant was the highest stage she could stand on without going international. The competition was brutal. Hundreds of contestants from every corner of the country, each polished to perfection, backed by sponsors, coaches, and fan bases. But Samantha didn't see herself as a misfit anymore. She saw herself as a warrior walking into battle. For months leading up to the pageant, she trained harder than she ever had. She woke up before sunrise to exercise, rehearsed her walk until her heels left dents in the living room floor, and practiced speeches until her voice rang clear and commanding. She studied interviews with past winners, learning how to stay calm under pressure. She invested in gowns that shimmered with confidence. Her mother watched her and said, "Win or lose, you've already changed the world." But Samantha didn't just want to change the world. She wanted to conquer it. When she arrived at the national pageant, the pressure was unlike anything she had experienced. Cameras flashed constantly. Reporters crowded the lobby, eager to get statements. The other contestants looked like they had stepped straight off magazine covers. Some eyed her with curiosity, others with skepticism. A few whispered cruel comments under their breath, echoing the old days of mockery. But Samantha had been forged in that fire. Their doubts only fueled her. The rounds began. In casual wear, Samantha commanded the stage with her stride, confident, unapologetic, radiant. The audience responded with enthusiastic cheers, louder than many of the other contestants. She could feel the energy shifting. People weren't just watching her, they were rooting for her. In the talent round, she sang again, but this time it wasn't just a performance. It was a story. She chose a song about rising after being broken, and every note carried the weight of her journey. By the end, people were on their feet, tears in their eyes. Even some judges clapped, something rarely seen at this level of competition. The evening gown segment was where Samantha shined brightest. Her dress was a masterpiece, sleek, elegant, crimson like fire. She walked with such grace that for a moment no one saw her size, only her power. She wasn't hiding her curves, she was celebrating them. The crowd roared as she twirled, the lights catching every sparkle of her gown. Finally, the question round. This was the moment that could make or break her. The judge leaned forward and asked, "Many people still believe that beauty has a single standard, thin, flawless, perfect. If you win tonight, how will you challenge that idea?" Samantha took a deep breath. The entire room held still. Cameras zoomed in. This was her chance. She smiled, calm yet fiery. "For years, I was mocked for my body. People told me I was too big, too different, too wrong to ever be considered beautiful. I carried that shame until I realized something. Their definition of beauty was never the truth. Beauty is not about fitting into a narrow box. It's about breaking that box apart. It's about confidence, resilience, and the courage to be yourself in a world that demands you change. If I win tonight, I want every girl who has ever been called ugly, fat, or unworthy to know this. You are already enough. You don't need a crown to prove it. But if I wear one, I'll wear it for all of us." The audience erupted. People stood, clapping, whistling, cheering. The energy was electric. Samantha felt tears in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She stood tall, her chin lifted, her heart soaring. The results were announced one by one. Third runner-up, second runner-up, first runner-up. Each name called, Samantha's pulse raced faster. Then the host's voice boomed. "And your new national queen is Samantha." The crowd exploded. The crown was lowered onto her head, and as it settled, world, Samantha's vision blurred with tears. She had done it. The girl once mocked in the cafeteria, the girl who had run off stage in shame, was now standing as the most celebrated beauty queen in the country. Backstage, reporters rushed to her, microphones flashing. "How does it feel to win?" someone asked. Samantha smiled through her tears. "It feels like freedom. For years, people tried to bury me with their laughter, but they didn't realize I was a seed. And tonight, I bloomed." That quote went viral. It was shared across social media, printed in magazines, and replayed on television. Samantha became more than a queen, she became a symbol. And her revenge? It wasn't in cruel words or petty payback. Her revenge was her success, her crown, her unstoppable rise. Every bully, every mocker, every person who had tried to break her now had to watch her shine from the highest stage. The girl they mocked for being fat had become a queen. And this time, the laughter that followed her wasn't cruel. It was joyous applause, echoing across the world.